3 John is a lovely book. It's a book that we don't get to very often because it's the 3rd one in the series and we don't normally do the first 2 either. But we know what's going on in Asia Minor. We know what's going on with the conflict that people are having. That we have some people teaching some things they shouldn't teach about Jesus not coming in the flesh. And we know John the elder, John the apostle, is there trying to keep that all straightened out. And he's winning some battles and he's losing some others. And so we have a series of letters. We have 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John, which go with the gospel that we call John. And this isn't the end of it. After this, you've got the book we call Revelation. And Revelation is written to the 7 churches in Asia Minor. Okay, so this is the area that John has been ministering to. And while he's there, he's made some friends. And that's what 3 John is about. 3 John, let's start reading in verse 1. The elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health, and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. It gave me great joy to have some brothers come and tell about your faithfulness to the truth, and how you continue to live according to the truth. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are living according to the truth. Now, we know what that means, because we've been in 1 John and 2 John. Living according to the truth is acknowledging that Jesus is God. That Jesus came in the flesh. And that He lived among us, and we've beheld His glory. The glory of the one and only begotten Son. And that He laid down His life for us, and He suffered and died in our place. And that He rose on the 3rd day. That is what John would say the truth is. And he says, I have no greater joy than to know that my children are living according to the truth. Gaius has passed the test that makes John joyful. He's holding on to the truth. Now, how does John know that? Well, as we're going to see in the next couple of weeks in this, that there are some people that went from John. Some people who went out to preach the Word of God. And they were received by Gaius. And they stayed with him. And then he sent them on in an encouraging manner. We're also going to find out there's some people in that town where Gaius lives that wanted nothing to do with it. A guy named Diotrephes, that we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks. Alright? So these people have returned to John and they said, yeah, we got to stay with Gaius. It was lovely. He was so giving, so encouraging, so warm, so caring, that we were very encouraged. And John said, I have no greater joy. I have no greater joy. That Gaius' faith has fleshed out in him ministering to other people. Okay, now, that's what we know happens. What we're going to look at this week is the fact that he called them several things. And things that he didn't call them. John starts out, he says, John the elder. The elder. Well, it could mean that he's referring to himself as a presbyter, an elder, like we have elders, a bishop. All of those words are used interchangeably in the New Testament. Or it could mean that he is just getting on in age, and he is at this point getting on in age. If this is John the Apostle. You know what he didn't call himself? John the Apostle. The one who leaned against Jesus. The one that Jesus really cared about. The one that did miracles. The one that was there when Jesus was crucified. The one that was... He didn't do any of that stuff. I don't know if you've been in situations lately where people use titles. I went to a hearing last Monday. The judge is called Your Honor, and all the attorneys have Esquire after their name, okay? And it's just a way of kind of letting everybody know where they stand and where you stand. John didn't do that. When he wrote to Gaius, he said, my dear friend, my dear friend. And that word friend comes up so many times in this one short little chapter. You get down to the end, he said, greet my friends there. The friends here greet you. Friend. That must have meant something to John, the apostle. He didn't want to pull rank and said, yes, I am the important one. Yes, I have the experience. Yes, I'm an apostle. He just said, I am my friend. My friend. I don't know if you know that there was a whole religious movement started in England, came over to the United States, called the Society of Friends. Yeah, we call them Quakers, right? We think about that when we Quaker Oats, and you see the guy in front of the beard and all that. Okay, Quakers, and they have a rich and fascinating history. But they started out being called Quakers because they quaked in fear and awe of God. But that's not what they called themselves. They called themselves a society of friends. Where do you think they got that? Yeah, from the Bible. My friends, greet the friends. The friends here send you greetings. Now, how important is that? Well, you know that John also wrote a gospel. We refer to it. And in chapter 15 of the Gospel of John, at that scene before the Lord's Supper, right? When Jesus washes their feet, and he tries to teach them some really, really important things. He said, I don't call you servants. I don't call you ones who are lower than me. Even though you call me Lord, I call you friends. Now, that left a big impression on John. Jesus called him friend. Friend is it's an interesting term. It's an old English term that comes, basically it's a beloved one. Right? But we don't use it that way anymore. It's one of those things that just, you know, I mean, now it's been the title of a sitcom. Friends. Right? And we think about Friends, we think about the weird life in New York and all that weird stuff, okay? And now with Friends and the social networking, you can quantify your friends, can't you? You can count how many friends you have on Facebook. And you can put out new requests for friends. And so we don't use that word the way that John is using that word. John's talking about people that you care about. You've come to care about. I mean, you got friends and you got family. Sometimes you even have friends in your family, which is kind of a weird duck. But you recognize that there's different categories. But these are people that aren't related to you that you have learned to love and care about. Friends. And maybe you haven't counted friends and maybe you haven't asked them to join your Facebook stuff. But John writes to Gaius and says, my dear friend, my dear friend. Personally, how did John come to care about Gaius? Well, he probably stayed in Gaius' house. Matter of fact, if you look at the end of this letter, he says, I've got a lot I want to talk to you about, but I don't want to write it down in pen and ink. I want to come see you soon. And we can talk face to face, because there's something that drives you to just spend some time with friends. Yeah, it's great to talk to them on the phone. It's great to get emails from them. It's great to have them post something on your page. But just being in the presence of a friend. And that's what John wants to do. So, guys, now I look forward to being with you. And if you look at what he says in his prayer, you'll see some things about how much he cares. He says, I pray that you may enjoy good health, and that all may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well. Okay. We tend to talk about health a lot, don't we? We keep up on our friends and our families' health. And we keep up on those other things. You know, how are you going with your job? How are things going with your kids? How are things going with your neighbors that bugging you? You know, whatever it is that's on their mind, you keep up in touch with them. And John said, I pray that you may enjoy good health. We pray that for our friends, don't we? Sometimes that prayer is not answered. Sometimes our friends lose their health. That happens. We weren't designed to be here forever. We were given bodies that wear out. We were given bodies that get ill or suffer from accidents. But our prayer is that everything goes well, and your health goes well, that you feel good. Because when your friend hurts you, you don't want them to hurt. But pain is a reality, and you understand that with friendships. And you've lost friends. And you know the grief that comes from that. Something we all face together, and we give each other courage to face that. That we have bodies that wear out. And that there are other things that don't go well. Sometimes we lose jobs. Sometimes relationships fall apart. Sometimes we suffer from depression. Sometimes we suffer from some other accident that messes us up. Johnson, you know, as your friend, I pray that everything goes well for you, as it is going well for your soul. Here's the baseline. He said, everything about your soul, Gauis, is taken care of. Your soul, your very being, your very essence, the very creation of God that's not part of this physical, and it's not part of the emotional thing, but just who you are is okay. It's okay. And I pray that your health is okay too. And that everything else in your life is okay. As your soul is okay. Just one thing that we can remember, the one thing that we can really encourage each other with is our souls are okay. Because of what Jesus has done, because of the truth that we live in, we are okay with God. Our soul is okay. Sometimes our health isn't too good. Sometimes other things bottom out. But here's the baseline. Our soul is okay. And sometimes we need to be together to remember that. And friends remind each other of that. And when you go and you see somebody whose body is in pain or hurting, as a friend, you can gently remind them that their soul is okay. Their soul is okay. You're sorry that they're in pain, and you're sorry that parts of their body are wearing out, and they can't hear as well as they used to, and they can't see as well as they used to, or maybe they can't walk as well as they used to, or just happy. But you know what? Your soul is okay. And I wish for you is that everything else will be okay too. But at some point, it's not going to be. Friends, my dear friend, I can't wait to see you. That expression that John learned from Jesus means a lot. That he doesn't call you a servant. He doesn't call you a lowly person down on the ladder somewhere that doesn't have a title. That God looks at you and says, you're my friend. I care for you. Now, John has also called him his little child, right? He said, it brings me no greater joy than to know that my children are living according to the truth. John says, I feel like a father to you. But you know what? Your friend. I am your friend. When you think about all the people you've known. And all the people that you would call friends, I can bet a bunch of them have to do with church. And maybe not this church. Maybe not even this denomination. But churches that you were part of, people that you grew to love. And they're still out there, and they're still your friend. That's a beautiful thing about what Jesus has done for us. He's taught us what it means to be a friend. And to love each other enough to be called a friend. You know, the things that mark the books of John. The commandments to love each other, right? The reminders to love each other. That's not in 3 John. He's got somebody that he's writing to that loves. He knows how he loves because he just sent these people back that he offered hospitality to. And that John feels loved by him, and John loves him, and he doesn't have to remind him to love each other because he's living according to the truth. And he can remember that. Today you are surrounded by friends. People who want the best for you. They may not have the best relationship skills. They may not know how to express it very well. But they're here because they're your friends. And if you have some need, some physical need, something to pray about, like we prayed about for Brent, Delma, for Doris, you can express those. You can ask for people to pray. And we have different ways to do that. You have little cards in the back. We'll have 2 elders in the back. And you can talk to me. You can call the office. Whichever way you need to get those concerns out there so we can pray for each other, we will. You're amongst friends. And I hope you feel that way. And if you don't, maybe you're not focusing on the right things. Maybe you're not focusing on the fact that Jesus called you friend. That teaches us what it means to call each other friends.